Good morning, folks of the Technology and Curriculum Conference of Aldine 2020. We are here with Miss April Hart. Going to learn today about For the Culture, Edtech and culturally responsive teaching in the music classroom. I'm super excited to hear everything you've got to say today, April. So without further ado, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, there we go. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? I'm so excited that you guys are here. Like she mentioned, my name is April Hart. I'm also known as April Praise. And if you have seen me on YouTube or have seen me on the news recently with my new song, Wear a Mask, I'm also known as the coolest teacher in the land. Yeah, that's me. That's who I am. So I'm really excited to be here today at TCCA to talk about something that is very important to me. So like we said, it's called For the Culture, and we are going to talk about culturally responsive teaching in the music classroom. Now, when talking about culturally responsive teaching, I'm going to let you know in advance, yes, we are talking about race. Yes, we are talking about demographics. There might be some things talked about that could make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. There could be some constructs and some ways that you're teaching that you didn't even know you were teaching like that. And so it might make you a little bit uncomfortable at first, but the whole point of today's presentation is to help you and equip you with tools and with ways that you can really enact this in the classroom to better your students. So if you're ready, go ahead, put in the chat, say I'm ready, tell me what's up. Now I'm a PK, I've been in church all my life. So even though I can't hear you talking back to me, talk back to me in the chat, it'll be all the same. So today, what we are going to do, I have 3 goals for us today. We are going to, by the time you finish, you're going to be able to express why culturally responsive teaching in the music classroom is important. You're going to gather resources together in order to better serve your community. And then, of course, I'm going to show you how to implement these practices within your music classroom. So if you're ready, go ahead, type in the chat, say I'm ready, and we're going to get this thing started. Now, when it comes to culturally responsive teaching in the music classroom, a lot of times, a lot of educators basically within music education, we think we got this. We think we do this great. Music is the one spot where students can express themselves. And so it's all hunky-dory for us. But think about it. If you're only pulling out songs from the Latino heritage during Cinco de Mayo, or during Hispanic Heritage Month, if you're only pulling out Negro spirituals and talking about the blues and jazz during Black History Month, are you really being culturally responsive if you're only acknowledging these other cultures that exist during a holiday rather than implementing them into your classroom every day? See, when I think of this topic, it all goes back for me to high school. And in high school, once I joined the marching band, I was on the drum line. Now, the reason I wanted to be on the drum line was because of the movie Drumline. When I was in high school, it came out, and this movie definitely made me want to be in marching band. I thought this is what marching band was. Now, for some of you who have never seen the movie, let me paint the picture for you. We have Devin Miles, who is basically a prodigy, and he goes to an HBCU called Atlanta A&T. It's not a real HBCU, but it was made up for the movie. And while he is there, he is in this marching band. Like I said, he is a prodigy. He's a standout. And there is a key scene in the beginning of the movie where they are at a football game. And Devin is brought in order to really change up the band and change up their sound. And they're playing against Morris Brown College, another HBCU. Morris Brown, they play this song. They have the crowd going crazy. And then it's time for A&T to respond with their stand tune. And so you would think that they would respond with something in order to make everybody go crazy. However, Dr. Lee, who's the director of the band, turns around and he's like, a whole bunch of musicians and no band. And he turns around to his band and says, "Flight of the Bumblebee." And everybody just puts their head down. And their response to what Morris Brown played was "Flight of the Bumblebee," because Dr. Lee believed that this type of music is right. This type of music is what's important. That is just show band. And so I watched this movie before I joined marching band, and I thought that this is what marching band was like. And the high school I went to did chord style marching. So when I went in there, I was pumped. I was like, yo, I saw drumline. This is what it's going to be like. And as soon as I got in there, my band director was like, oh no, that's just show style. We do the real thing here. I said, what? I said, but they were playing, they were reading me. No, that's just show style. So I had to stop. I said, okay. So while I'm in marching band this whole time, when we played the predominantly Black schools, they would play all the stands tunes that I loved. Their whole side would be lit, and we'd be on our side playing Flight of the Bumblebee. And I was really discouraged by that. And then it made me stop and think, why is that? Why is one seen as correct and the other is just seen as, this is fun, this is just a show? And if we really break down music education as it's taught here in America, if we really think about it, a lot of what we teach is based on white, Western, and European standards. Now, I know for some of you that might be hard to take in, but let's look at it, okay? Let's compare. So we have chord style marching versus what's considered show band at the predominantly HBCUs and predominantly Black high schools. Now, one, you see drum corps all over. They put it on ESPN. They do all that. And it's known around the world. But the quote unquote show style is only known within the Black community. And it's known as, oh, this is fun. Now, think about the two. They're both using the same types of fundamentals. They're both reading the same kind of music, but one is considered right and the other is considered show or fun. So think about me going into high school thinking what I like is not real. What I like is just fun. What we're doing here is right. Let's look at vocal ensembles. We have regular chorus versus gospel choir. Now, I was in gospel choir. I've taught many, many gospel choirs over the course of my life. And I realized that when you go to a school setting, you might have gospel choir as a club, but it's not going to be a regular class. Even though the intricacies and the layers of gospel music, I've sang with a lot of gospel choirs that do some very challenging music. And it really could be a whole year-long course, but that's just fun. Chorus, chamber ensemble. This is what's right. This is just what's fun. My own mother, when she was in high school, she was in the gospel choir club and in chorus. And her chorus teacher, who was African-American, said, man, I hate it when you guys go over there and then come over here because you kind of have to relearn everything. Now, what that shows you, the reason I'm pointing out that her chorus teacher was African-American is because it's not just ingrained in one race of people that this is right and this is wrong. It's what's taught. It's what's in the structure. You look at when we talk about composers through the different time periods, if you order a composer packet for your classroom, all the composers in it are going to be white. If you talk about music history from medieval to modern to postmodern, we don't talk about any Black composers until we start talking about Scott Joplin and ragtime. Even though this is a beautiful Black classical composer poster that you can actually purchase for your classroom that shows that during the same time periods, there were Black, and I'm not saying African-American, I'm saying Black because the Black diaspora is across the globe. There were Black composers doing the same thing, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that, which lets our Black and brown students know that we're not giving them anything to aspire to. You know, when we talk about medieval times, we talk about the monks and the way they made music, when at the same time, the first church was started in Ethiopia, in Africa. But we don't talk about the way they were making music. We go straight to the monks. Now, all of this is to say, I don't want you to think that anything that you've been teaching is wrong and there is not value in anything that we have been teaching. But I want you to see that there is a bias. Music education leans towards a bias to white American and European structure. Now, I want you to walk away from this knowing that they're both equal, but they're just different, okay? One is not better than the other. One is not right. One is not wrong. I think the amazing Whitney Houston said, it's not right, but it's okay. All right, they are both equal. They're both important. Both cultures are important. One is not better. One is not less than. We have to understand that in order to teach that to the students that we teach. And when we talk about culture, especially in the music classroom, we automatically assume, oh, I want to add culture. I'm going to do a rap. Yeah, I'm going to add some hip hop. We're gonna hit the wall at the end of this, and then it's going to be great. That is not what culture means. At the 2019 Texas Music Educators Association conference, I went to an urban music workshop led by Colton Blake. Now, before I talk about that, I want you to see that even at TMEA, the urban music education workshops were taught in the middle of a lobby. They put up some drape, put some tables in there. You still hear the noise going on in the background because people are walking. It's right by the escalator. That's where the urban music education workshops were taught. But everything else had its own room, had its nice projector, had all that. Now, I don't think it was on purpose, but outside looking in, it kind of shows that one was a little bit more important than the other. Just saying. So Colton Blake at this conference said something that I will never forget. He said, culture is the everyday lived experiences of the students that I teach. I'm going to say it one more time so you can really understand it. Culture is the everyday lived experiences of the students that I teach. Meaning that it has nothing to do with, oh, let me just sing in Spanish. It has nothing to do with, oh, let me just add some hip hop to what I'm doing. It has everything to do with what are they living through. It has everything to do with the family dynamic. That is what culture is. And I really got a culture shock when I started teaching. I started teaching back in 2017, not an educational background. I went through an ACP, and the first school I taught at was Kid Peace Elementary over in Houston's 3rd Ward area. Is right across the street from the University of Houston and from TSU. Now at this school, 63.5% of the students were African American, 31.3% were Hispanic. Now for me, this was easy, okay? I'm African American. I knew what the students liked. I knew about the culture. That was easy for me to teach them. And I'll never forget my first year of teaching. I threw a party for the students because they did good in the show. And so, I'm sitting there, I DJ a little bit on the side. So I'm DJing for the kids, and, I'm playing all the kids bops, all the songs that are on the radio, and most of them are hip hop. And the kids is going crazy. And then slowly, I see my Latino students back against the wall, and they're just talking against the wall. And so, I'm like, come on, we dancing, we having a good time. And they're backing up. And then I'm like, what is going on? And then it clicked. I'm only catering to one demographic of my students. I'm not teaching to all of them. But let me tell you, once I put on some Danza Carudo by Don Omar, oh, they was lit. But it really was a turning point for me to see I can't just teach to what I like or what I know. I have to be an all-inclusive teacher if I want to teach all of my students. When I switched schools, now I'm at Griggs EC Pre-K and Aldine ISD, and the demographic, as you can see, literally switched. It literally switched. Now I'm at 62.5% Hispanic and 33% African American, which means that I could not teach the same way that I taught before. It was not going to work. When I came over here, I had to learn Spanish. I have many bilingual students. I had to pick up Spanish. I had to learn and understand that there's a difference in cultures between Mexican and Central American Latino countries. I had to learn all of that, and I had to be able to take my education and really draft it so that it appealed to all of my students. I couldn't just focus on Black History Month anymore. I had to really focus on Hispanic Heritage Month. I had to understand the culture of the students that were there. So I really want you to take this in. I really want you to look at your students, look at the times. It's needed. The social unrest, the social injustice in this country, your students are not exempt from that. Your students are not exempt from that. They don't live in a bubble where it's happening. It could be impacting them directly. And so we have to understand that the way we teach really has to be inclusive of all of the students that we teach. Everybody sit, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. All right. We had to really analyze and see that the problem is there. So now we're going to go about fixing it. Now, when we talk about the culture, we have to be able to serve the community of students that we teach. Now, how do you serve the community if you don't know your community? I think of a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. They could have a plate of food going from table to table to table, but if they do not know which table is theirs, how can they serve them? If we do not know the community of our students and the culture of our students, then how can we serve them? I'm going to give you 3 easy ways in order to get to know your community. There are 3, they're super easy. You'll remember them. Eat local, shop local, live local. Eat local, shop local, live local. Let's talk about eating, okay? I'm a foodie. Hands down, I'm a foodie. I can tell you about every spot in every area of Houston. My degree is actually in hospitality management and marketing. So I know about food. I'm a foodie. Initially, when I grew up, I wanted to have my own restaurant. You ready for this? Called Jamitaly. Okay, it was going to be Jamaican and Italian food combined. It was going to be fusion. It was going to be lit. So as you can see, food is a big part of my life, and I'm not ashamed of it. So how do we know how can we eat locally wherever we teach? Yelp is the most amazing resource for food that I've ever seen. Yelp, you can go on there, look by your school and see what's popular over there. And let me tell you why that's important, okay? Not just to get some lunch. But when I would eat locally at my first school, Kit Peace Elementary over in the 3rd Ward, when I would eat at these places and they would see me with my lanyard, people would say, oh, you teach at the school down the street. My sister goes there. My cousin goes there. My child goes there. And I was able to relate with them. All I chose to do was go into some of these hole-in-the-wall restaurants because really they got the best food. Like, let's be real, they got the best food. I was able to go in some of these hole-in-the-wall restaurants and really immerse myself in the culture and able to connect with this community, have conversations with them, which I could take that knowledge and apply it to how I taught in the classroom. Eating locally, I told you, it's simple. Shopping locally. The school that I used to teach at, it was a pretty rundown HEB, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Just got to get groceries. So I'd go in there from time to time and I would see students and their parents, and they were able to see, oh, you have a life outside of school, because apparently students don't believe that. But I was able to talk with the parents, talk with the students. I remember one time, one of my most favorite students came in there and he was with his mom. He was talking to me and he was like, can I stay with you, Ms. Hart? And I was like, all right, that's cool. And I put him in my cart. And while his mom did the shopping and I did my shopping, he was in my cart just talking to me. It's another tool to be able to build relationships within the community that you teach. So eating locally, shopping locally, living locally. Now, when I taught at Kit Peace Elementary, I had lived near there when I lived on campus in some apartments during college. And so I knew the community in that aspect. When I worked at Griggs last year, I lived 6 minutes from the school. And so when I would be out and about, I would see students and be like, oh, that's Miss Hart in the store. Most of the time I would say, hey, sometimes I'd be like, hey, yo, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I don't have my lanyard on. But they were able to see, I'm not afraid of this community. I'm not afraid to be here. You're not just a paycheck for me. I want to know about you. I'm telling you, these 3 things, eating locally, shopping locally, living locally, will do more for you than you know. It will help you understand your community and it will make you be able to serve them better. Now, once you understand it, the most important thing is understanding your school. And for that, what I love, there's an amazing resource called schooldigger.com. If you go on schooldigger.com, you type in the name of your school, and what automatically pops up are the demographics, the percentage on free lunch, student-teacher ratios. They have comparisons with other schools. Why is all this important? Well, if you see that 96% of your students are on free and reduced lunch, it might not be best to ask them to buy a $20 costume for the Christmas program, because they have other things to worry about. If you know that you have a primarily Latino population at the school, you might want to do like I did and educate yourself on Hispanic culture and learn some Spanish in order to be able to communicate with the parents and with the students. All of this is very important, and schooldigger.com does a great job of showing you that. Now I have some examples. So I put in my school, and as you can see, these numbers were taken from last year. So, I mean, it doesn't hide anything, and automatically gives you everything. Last year, it was a 1 to 18 student to teacher ratio, the number of students. I see the number of students on free and reduced lunch, which lets me know, okay, I got to think of how to put on the show for the lowest cost possible. Gives you the racial breakdown. And if you keep going, it gives you graphs. It gives you basically everything you could ever need. And then I could go through and I can analyze it from the different schools in the area. I can see, is every school in this area like this in case I wanted to transfer, or is it just this school? It just helps you be able to understand it. Like I said, don't be the waiter or the waitress walking around not knowing where to put the food down. Okay, know your community, know the table that you serve so you can best serve them. So we know what the problem is. We know how to understand and serve the community that we teach. Now, how do we do it? Now let's talk about implementing it into the classroom. In the words of Montel Jordan, this is how we do it. So the number one thing I want you to know is I don't want you to be afraid to bring real life into the classroom. I don't want you to be afraid of bringing in what's happening in culture into your classroom, because like I said, it affects all of your students. It affects all of your students. When you're able to bring those things into your classroom, it shows that you care, it shows that you are there, and it shows that you are aware. You are care, you're there, and you're aware. For myself, I taught students right after Hurricane Harvey. I've taught students right after a whole slew of killings of African-American men at the hands of the police. It affects them. It definitely affects them. If they're older, they definitely understand, and you should be able to ask them directly and they can tell you how they feel. If they're younger, like the school I teach at now, what I found was that rather than ask them directly, because they might not know, I ask them about their feelings, and then they're able to unpack from that. When I taught students after Hurricane Harvey, and a lot of the low-income areas got hit pretty hard, the students came in, and rather than me just saying like, hey, you guys are okay? Everything's fine? All right? No, we took their emotions and I showed them how to write a song, and we wrote songs as a class in order for them to express how they feel and then to express the hope that was to come from each of these. And they loved that. The awesome thing about music, whether you teach elementary music, whether you teach primary music, whether you teach band, whether you teach chorus, whether you teach orchestra, we all know that as music educators, we have the key to allow these students to be able to express themselves in ways that they couldn't do in math, they couldn't do in science. Music is the key to expression, to creativity, and we hold this. And once we know how to grab this and really teach it to the students that we serve, to the community that we serve, it can have so much impact. I think back during the pandemic when Ahmaud Arbery was killed, I already had a lesson up for my students, my younger students, and I took that and I trashed it. And instead, I asked them about their feelings. Just ask them, how do you feel right now? I said, things are hard. How do you feel right now? And they were able to express that to me. Some students were saying, they feel fine. They didn't really know what was going on. Other students, said, I feel kind of sad. And you ask them why. And they're able to tell you, let me tell you, something about little kids. You ask them, they will tell you everything. Okay, they will give you all the information, all the stuff you didn't want to know, where their mom was last night, what their daddy was doing with his friend. They will tell you everything. All you got to do is ask. And so I want you to know and not be afraid to do this. I know it can be a little scary if you've never done it before, but I promise you it will have more of an impact than you really know. So I've broken this down. And I'm going to talk to primary and elementary first, and then don't worry, middle and high school, I got you. So when we are talking about this, Quaver. For primary and elementary teachers, Quaver is one of the best resources that I'm so appreciative that my district invested in this, because it has a plethora of things to use within your classroom. But talking about CRT, one of the things I love on here is Quaver's world music section. So when you go to the admin page, you can see Quaver's world music. Click on that, and then you have something like this. Now, it has songs and it has instruments. When you click on songs, it has all of the continents. And obviously you can click on any one of them. I'll just click on North America, for example. When I click on North America, if it will come up, there we go. It gives me songs that are within the program that I can use from everywhere. I mean, look, it has songs from Mexico, from the United States, from the South. It has Native American songs. It has, we even get to the West Indies, it has Haitian on here. And then if you click on somewhere like South America, look, you got songs in here from Argentina and Brazil, and they're going to add more. They always add more in here. What's so cool about this resource is that if I understand the demographic of students that I teach, for instance, how my school is predominantly Latino, it would not make sense for me to only choose the hip hop songs or only choose the American folk songs to use within my lesson. This gives me ways to use things that speak to their culture within the lesson, which makes them so much more appreciative, which when they go home, that's when they say, I love music class. We learned about X, Y, and Z. And then when the parent sees you, they said, wow, I didn't know you were teaching X, Y, and Z. It builds that relationship, because a lot of the times the parents only hear from us when it's time for a show or graduation. But this way you're able to build that relationship that even a classroom teacher might have. And it just adds to your impact within that community. If we click on instruments, it has a different kind of instruments down here. Let me just click on membranophones for a second. And you get all of these explanations of the different types. You can click on them and it shows you how to use them and how to play them. This, for teachers and districts where you have Quaver, this is an amazing tool. Now, another great thing about Quaver is that over the course of, I believe in March or June, it's one of those 2 months, they just had started a partnership with the National African American Music Museum in Nashville. So for the older, I believe like 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, you can actually go in here and do lessons on the history of spoons and the history of the banjo, and then be able to, it shows you the history, it shows you how to make them, it shows you how to play them, shows you their impact in African American culture. That's just another tool to help be able to bridge that gap. The Quaver Resource Manager gives tools that you can research the history and relevance within the culture. Now, some of you might be saying, I don't have Quaver. I wish my school would buy it. I don't have it. That's okay. For you, I got Kahoot. Now, a lot of classroom teachers use Kahoot, but I started using it about 2 years ago within the music classroom. This is an amazing, amazing tool to use for assessment, to see what your students know. And you can even get ideas. I mean, you can type in here and find a Kahoot about anything, not related to music, but there's a whole Martin and Fresh Prince trivia Kahoot that I just found randomly tapping in, playing with my family. You can type in anything here. A lot of Kahoots are already made. And if you don't find what's made, you can always make it yourself. And you can use that with your students. So, like I said, we're covering all levels, primary and elementary, I got you, middle and high school. Your impact really comes when it comes to history. When it comes to history and selecting music repertoire, that's when you can make the most impact in terms of CRT. You don't want to wait until Black History Month in order to talk about pull out a Negro spiritual. I'm just saying, don't wait till Hispanic Heritage Month to talk about mariachi music. Use the times in your classroom when they wouldn't expect it to pull different repertoire and to talk about the history of the music there. They have a, and let me make sure I'm pronouncing this right, Chevrier de St. George. I know some of y'all probably say it better than me. I'm sorry, that's how I said it. I messed it up. But he was a Black composer who was envied by Mozart. Do we talk about him? No. Why not? I don't know. But if he was envied by Mozart, don't you think that he was pretty important? When we talk about Beethoven's Kreutzer Sonata, the sonata was actually supposed to be named after a Black violinist named George Bridgetower. But him and Beethoven had a falling out. And so right before the piece went out, Beethoven removed that dedication, put Kreutzer on it instead. But can you imagine the impact that this piece could have had if it was named after a Black man during the time when Black men were being put on ships and being traded during slavery, that Beethoven, one of the greatest composers ever, named his piece, dedicated his piece to a Black man? We don't talk about that. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. But we need to, because if our students, our Black students, our brown students are able to see that these things have happened before, it gives them something to aspire to. It really does. Now, one of the best tools that I have found when it comes to music history is called musicmap.info. musicmap.info. Now, let me show you what this looks like. So if I zoom out on here, I was playing around with it a little bit earlier. If you zoom out on here, what it does is it shows you all these different genres, okay? You got blues, gospel, jazz, pop, country, utility, folk, classical, world. As you begin to zoom in, you get years, and you also see all these lines. What are these lines doing? These lines are showing you how the music is connected across the board. Because I always tell people, no genre is ever just, oh, I've never heard anything like this before. Let me just play it. This is what it is. It's all connected. It all comes from something else. So as you zoom in more and more, for instance, when you go over these, you're able to click them and you get information on them. But if I look at something like ska, okay, ska we know influenced reggae music. Ska we see is tied to Memphis and deep Southern soul. And we look from here, and what's that tied to? Rhythm and blues. And then we follow the line, and what does that go towards? The British invasion. What does that go to? Rockabilly and rock and roll. What does that go to? American folk revival. And then we follow it up. It's all tied to folk music. Using this for your older students really can show them the way that music was connected and the influence that it has. And then it can be inspiring to them when they're creating. They can draw the lines together for themselves. And when you're able to click on one of these, like I talked about ska, you get a whole explanation, a history, and they have YouTube and Spotify playlists. So if your students don't know what that sounds like, they can click on one of these, see what it sounds like, be able to listen to it and really understand it. So musicmap.info. 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 Now, for everybody across the board, like I said, I have a resource for you that I'm really, really excited to release and show you all today. It is the Artist of the Month collection. Now, what is this? This is something I started doing my first year of teaching, and I have gotten into such a groove to it, and I really believe that every music classroom needs this resource. So what the Artist of the Month collection is it gives you templates of 4 different artists per month. In addition to the templates, which I'll show you in a second, it gives you songs and fun facts. So the way that I utilize the Artist of the Month is I use the template. For instance, the one I have here is Elvis Presley. Now, all the artists within the collection, it's based on when that artist's birthday is. So for January, I use Elvis Presley. What you'll see here is you'll see the genre of music, you'll see the name, and you'll see the date of birth and the date of death. Now, one year I picked a lot of people who were dead, and my students got to the point where they were like, "Dang, is everybody in music dead? Ain't nobody good still alive?" And then I had to make a mental note. I said, okay, I had to show them that there's still good people making music. So what you would do with the template is you would scour the internet and find a picture of this artist. You can find any picture. You copy and paste it. It's a JPEG file, so you can copy and paste it, save it. When the students walk in, I have this displaying on the board, and I also have one of the songs playing. Now, because I see my students once a week, I play one song every time that they come in. If you are in a chorus or band class where the students come every day, you can focus on that one song for the week, or you can change it up. I give you suggestions. They're not law. They're just suggestions of different songs to use. So the way I do it, I play the song, we go over the artist, and then I give them a fun fact. Each artist is going to come with 4 fun facts for the 4 weeks. Now, the way I go a little bit further with this resource is after they come in and we go over the Artist of the Month, I have them sit and watch a live performance of that artist performing that song. What that does is that helps to teach audience etiquette, especially at this time when we can't really do performances and do assemblies and such. Teaches audience etiquette. So I tell them, pretend like you are sitting there. This is how an audience acts at a jazz concert. This is how an audience would act at a rock and roll concert. And so you're able to do that. Now, why do I call it the Artist of the Month? Why not go with Composer of the Month? Because the students that it might not be for you, I'm talking about me, the students that I teach, they would not go home and their parents say, oh, my favorite composer is fill in the blank. Artist is common language among all people. Everybody has a favorite artist. Everybody has an artist who they love. And so by doing that, the child is able to go home and say, oh yeah, we talked about Elvis Presley. And the mom said, Elvis Presley? Oh, your grandma used to love Elvis Presley back in the day. She liked that song, Jailhouse Rock. We just listened to Jailhouse Rock today. They build that connection, and it all starts from your classroom. I had a student one year who the Artist of the Month, it was an R&B singer. Now within the collection, there is a plethora of genres, but each month you'll see at least one R&B or soul person. That's just my little touch. I love R&B and soul music, but it was R&B music. And she said they were driving in the car and I forgot what song came on. And he was in first grade and he's in the back and he said, Mommy, that's R&B. She turned around, she said, what? She said, yeah, that's R&B music. Miss Hart said R&B music is, and he gave her the list, and she came and told me, she was like, I had no idea that he would be learning stuff like this. She thought he was just learning ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, but he's learning all of this knowledge about music. I'm exposing, by using this resource, you expose them to music that might not be played in their house. Okay, going back to Elvis. I had a kindergartner who, from the time he was in kindergarten to the time he left in second grade, every time he would come in my classroom afterwards, he said, Miss Hart, you gonna play Elvis today? You gonna play Elvis? You gonna play Elvis? Now, I knew his family, and I knew his family did not listen to probably Elvis Presley, but he loved Elvis. And so he was able to help build that and teach his own parents something. Every time I think about this resource and think about this artist of the month, I think about this email I got from a parent randomly in my email. And, most of the time we see emails, it's something bad. And so to see this, I just read it real quick. It said, I've been hearing about you since last year and all were such great things. I learned myself. She didn't say the students. I learned myself about Elvis, Selena, Stevie Wonder, and now Frankie Lyman. I know that the craft kids love your class, and I just think that you are amazing. I love the music selections and well as the diverse culture. Keep up all the great work. Let us know if there's anything you may need for your class we can possibly help with. We would love to meet you. Now, do you see within this, just by doing this one little thing at the beginning of the class, she sees what her students are being exposed, what her children are being exposed to. She loves it. She gets to learn some things. She loves that. And then she reached out at the end and said, if there's anything you need for class, let me know. By teaching the whole school, by teaching 685 students, it's kind of hard for me to have that relationship with each and every parent. But I have this parent just reach out to me. So I know if I need help making a set for the Christmas program, I know who to call. And she's probably friends with some of the other parents and they know who to call. All by doing this one little thing. I'm telling you, this might not seem like much, but I'm telling you, it will help build relationships in a way that you would have never thought possible. For my older students, for the teachers who teach orchestra or chorus or band, you can have this artist up and maybe that one song that you play for that week, you can choose one of the weeks and have them play that song or have them work in small groups or work within their sections. If it's a swing art, if it's Frank Sinatra, have them work in sections to come up with swing music that sounds like Sinatra. You can build on it like that. You can do so much with this resource. You can build relationships, you can teach to the culture, and I promise you it will have such an impact. So what I'm going to do, if you go on my website, aprilpraise.com, and click the shop tab, I have November and December for you for free. Free 99, November and December. You can have it for your classroom. Now, the whole set is available for $15, which is really, really cheap, because if it's 4 artists every month, this resource can literally last you up until for 4 years if you're choosing one per month. So the whole set has every month within the school year minus June and July, because obviously we're on summer break. So if you go to aprilpraise.com, you can get November and December for free. The whole set is available for $15. I also want to plug, like I said, I was on the news last week and this week talking about, I released a song under my pseudonym, Coolest Teacher in the Land, about wearing a mask. It is available on all streaming platforms. You can also get a digital download of it on my website for $5. I'm telling you, the song is lit. It's a bop. The parents love it. The kids love it. It's a bop. Go ahead and stream that. And be sure to connect with me, okay, on Twitter, on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, on my website. Be sure to connect with me. I would love to hear about how you felt about today, or if through the school year you need resources or you need ideas, or if you want to bring me in, feel free to connect with me on any of these platforms, and I would just love to talk with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions that we might have in the little bit of time that we have left today.
Thank you so much, April. I want to go ahead and say that the super secret password for session 3 is INSPIRE. So the super secret password is INSPIRE, capital I. And looking through, we've got a lot of comments, and we're really sticking with relationships. When you relate to your student, it makes all the difference.
That's definitely true. I mean, we've all heard it said before that students can't learn from people they don't like. And so if they don't like you, they don't want to learn from you. They don't want to practice. They don't want to come to extra rehearsals. They don't want to learn lines. And so it's important to build those relationships. And like I said before, music is the easiest and the most fun way. Between music and food are the two things that are most important in my life, but they're the easiest way to build relationships with anybody. And so I feel as music educators, if we can really use that to our advantage, we can see that impact in our students more than we could ever imagine.
One question we have here, where did you find that composer poster?
That Black Composer poster, I actually found it. I just typed in Google Black Composer poster, and the image popped up, and it takes you to a website. I believe it's called blackclassicalcomposers.com. I'm not 100% sure, but when you do that, when you go there, it has the poster available for purchase.
Awesome. All right, guys, if there's any questions that you have for April, go ahead and put those in the chat right now. We've got about 5 minutes left before this stream ends, but we will hang around and wait a little bit. Again, the session password is Inspire, capital I, and you have the link in your emails. So if you registered, that link is in your emails.
Most definitely.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we don't have any further questions for you today, April. Thank you so much. I mean, that's bringing some knowledge to the people. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing and working with the littles, because we tend to think about what they can't do and not what they can.
Yeah, definitely. No problem.
All right. Thank you, guys. The next session is lunch. So check out the vendors, or you can catch the keynote again if you missed it, didn't catch it this morning. So if you didn't listen to Michael Bonner this morning, please do yourself a favor and listen to the man while you eat your lunch.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.